When I was in high school, I had a few inspirational teachers, and it turned out because of the weird politics of my public high school, the only good teachers in the high school were the math teachers, which is why I got into math. All the other teachers seemed kind of bored and wanting to get out the door, but the math teachers were really into it, and they, which is kind of probably why I went into math. You can't really develop a love of certain things if the grown-ups are kind of like not there, So, and that's where I learned that the most important thing about teaching isn't teaching. The most important thing about teaching is creating some kind of motivational envelope, kind of like something like basically you're not teaching, they're learning. And learning is a very active process. And so one of the easiest ways to motivate is through narrative, like oh, you're going to tell me a story. I'm interested in the story. It's like Alfred Hitchcock how many people here have ever read or the book Hitchcock Truffaut, where Francois Truffaut interviewed about 50 hours worth of interviews of Truffaut, because Truffaut realized that Hitchcock was a genius long before the rest of us stupid Americans got it, and he did all, and it was boiled down to a book, and it's all about motivation. There is this great moment where Hitchcock is explaining to Truffaut. He says, here's a thought experiment. You're watching a scene in film, and you see a man. He's well dressed. He could be a banker. And he gets out of his very nice house, and he locks the door, and then he walks down the steps, gets into a taxi, and says to the guy, take me to the train station. And then you see the taxi driving through, and there's people in the way, and then he stops at a red light, and this and that. And the most boring scene you could imagine. Like, nobody would watch that scene. He says, now, all we're going to do is right at the beginning, he locks the door, he looks at his watch, and he says, my train is coming in 5 minutes, I'm going to miss it. And everything else, same thing. Suddenly you're like, every time the light goes red, every time a pedestrian walks in front, everything that happens, you're just on the edge of your seat. And what's magical about this is, who the hell is this guy? We don't know him. We don't know even if we like him. We don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy or anything, but we are engaged because there's a narrative, because there's a problem was set up in our minds. With, Hitchcock would call him a MacGuffin, and then we are just focused on that. And I learned, it was pretty clear that the good teachers in high school were the ones who were doing that. And I don't explicitly tell my students you have to do that. I just show it to them all the time. That's how I teach. Because if they're interested in becoming teachers, they're going to pay attention to how the good teachers taught.